78. At least 20 power governments are business corrupted to finish humanity murder. The rest are less dangerous but unable to organize and enforce saving reform. Only you, gone exponentially viral, will save your family by directing, mastering our human family. Or you will retreat to your private life, leaving them, as always, in charge of our miserable fast extinction. Let's draw out the only two human near-future scenarios where you do have the power, if you build it, to choose and effect societal and personal rescue. First, they torture, then kill you. Simply, passively sit down, and I promise they will, soon. Instead, I'll describe you saving billions, though sadly not everyone. Here's what happens, exactly as on millions of once civilized, now dead silent planets, if you leave the institutionalized jackals feasting on our soon-to-be remains. Alexander Putin today and every day explodes 10,000 artillery shells on Ukrainians. He wants 2,000 more, so he just got them promised from North Korea in return for making their fast-growing nuclear arsenal 10 times more dangerous. Dozens of nations are expanding his Ukrainian victims' weaponized murder. China just attacked the Philippines' boats in the ocean it illegally claims for 1,000, not 12 territorial miles out from the Chinese mainland. When Filipino sailors soon die, American treaty defense demands a very long naval war with China. Biden promises another direct war when almost certain Chinese invasion of Taiwan happens inside of 3 years. North Korea increasingly plans to attack South Korea, causing a second bloody Korean war between nuclear nations. Hezbollah now rains thousands of rockets on Israeli civilians and threatens assault on Cyprus if they allow basing of aircraft attacking Lebanon. Israel's war on Hamas will likely never end, eliciting a century of 2 billion Arabs' revenge. American bombs may eventually, just periodically, slow down obliteration of Gaza, and Saudi Arabia continues U.S. bomber and bomb foreign attack to defend a client regime against Houthi rebels and all their stinking, guilty Yemeni followers, 95% civilians, not to mention wasting their farm fields and babies for the forever duration of the civil revolt endlessly armed by Iran. Sudan's 20 militia war on millions of civilians will keep right on going after 10 million are soon homeless or dead, courtesy of World Murder Incorporated. Syria's Hafez Assad will soon have murdered 1 million of his own countrymen. Weaponeers' capture of hundreds of national governments passes 300 million slaughtered, 600 million wounded, and another billion non-combatant lives ruined since World War I. Then, from the 1950s, all of us 8 billion are in their crosshairs. Today, in most of the world's 49 wars, the plan is to always keep increasing invasion weaponry, killing and wounding and making homeless and destitute every possible inhabitant of the losing nation. finally determined by the first nation to entirely run out of weapons, soldiers, and civilians with homes, families, jobs, and lives. With total war's new reality, supply, and philosophy, ceasefires and peace agreements almost never happen. All formerly civilized laws of war prohibiting harm to civilians have completely given way to total war on civilians everywhere. The purpose of unlimited world weaponry has always been to kill everyone for power and money, except survivors working for the economy, enriching the big dogs, who have never learned that this always culminates someday in their own murder-suicide, like all of history's empires. Today's difference is all humanity's imminent doom. One loon among us all shrieks for disarmament. Humanity's only future begins the day you make it too. We have fully discussed 99% of the mid-2020s mortal all-humanity peril. Conventionally pounded Alexander Putin on a quick single day will finalize Armageddon with hundreds of giant nuclear bombs that idiots call tactical. I insist that you recognize the imminent, cemented-in doomsday arrival that we all continue to actively or mostly passively make happen. Phenomenal escalation of private money buying no longer public government is certainly, for over a century, the primary cause. Why is my elementary deduction so entirely unheard of? Bribery for tax robbery for doomsday arsenals is the problem. So public campaign finance only, electing honestly motivated family protectors that you lobby for universal disarmament is the only solution that keeps your children alive. Got that? Who's weird, me or you, 8 billion dolts? But no, don't help. Leave the bribery alone to kill us. Our stinking American Supreme Court did. A currently ignorant expert consensus projects CO2 emissions decline to net zero by 2050. All of these experts forgetting that stratosphere CO2 will still rise considerably more from that declining but still excess addition. Then that next half-degree Celsius heat and drought boom quickly will kill most forests, destroying net zero for net quintupling of 2025's already fatal CO2 emissions peak. 30% of continents will, well before that, flood out human habitations and crops, while 70% lose most all regular rain, rivers, and lakes. Early in this 2030s process, billions will head for thirst and starvation deaths, then mostly completed in the 2040s. Presently failed governments and economies will exponentially multiply, of course, exploding resource wars everywhere. The temporarily rich will buy most of the dwindling water and food. Then only assault guns and ammo will keep a few alive for another short time. Meanwhile, don't even imagine that nuclear command and control and mutual assured destruction deterrence standoffs will continue to keep the peace while every leader and citizen on Earth panics 24/7, 365. Haven't we also exactly described what happened on 10 million techno-planets more occupied with their computer games than any weird reformer's survival laws? On this Earth, Putin is about to blow the first 100 nukes. You've heard me detail several times how this has to blast another 7,000. Most analysts believe this total to be around half of the 15,000 nuclear explosions probably needed to ground burst 100 trillion tons of Earth to the stratosphere for 2 years of 28 degrees all-life deep freeze. Currently slightly smaller arsenals will still totally destroy America, Europe, Russia, and China, while murdering nearly all humanity with radioactive fallout upon 0 remaining functional farms and economies. The day before our nuclear coup de grace, life support everywhere was already ending, with dead forest CO2 emission explosion globally scorching regular rain, rivers, and lakes almost entirely gone over that 70% of continent's terminal drought areas. The few survivors would continue to flee to the flood-ravaged remainder to eat mushrooms and start another Stone Age for no happy reasons that anyone could think of. They'll find a few of my audios and a solar-powered player left for folks to reconsider family love law with. This time minus all of the explosives and private business captured governments. Well, there's one of our 2 possible stories. From your apathy, certainly never interventions, today's ongoing chain reaction, rushing to your family's miserable end with the certainty of a perfectly set up 100,000 domino chain or Rube Goldberg perpetual motion contraption. Now you're about to tell sorry, shrieking Steve to F off. End your stinking rants. I don't blame you. I hate me too. But did we both forget that I have waxed eloquent about our glorious love laws that you're gonna build human heaven on earth with instead? Now, let's describe the most hopeful but still realistic world rescue by you and all you inspire. While unprecedented tragedy will hammer humanity for decades more at best, all of us could absolutely rescue up to 1 million times more people, then making ever more true civilization improvements than the zero thoughts, ethics, and efforts, public and family abandoning, horrible end of humanity that I just described. Your movement will prioritize the worst world emergencies first. Your giant world citizen pressure must negotiate Ukraine's ceasefire with all nuclear weapons undeployed, far out of that still potential war theater just before WMD crazies Vladimir Putin, Kim Il-sung, and possibly Donald Trump also will rush to murder humanity just as soon as one day one twitches one finger onto one red button while one is angry, scared, and humiliated. Next, we'll focus on denying weaponeers bribe power over most every national Congress's tax treasury. Our worldwide work for the Border Defenses Only Treaty, achieved by Invasion Weapon World Disarmament, will inspire both the people and governments of 180 countries, but 15 war regimes will stay corrupted and attacking. In a few more years, some could respond to our peace and uncorrupted democracy legal movement, but several giant powerful dictatorships will block our internet campaign, and the commercial American and Russian dictator kingpins, World War III industry governments will keep fighting us tooth and corrupt nail until we bounce their dirtiest leaders for our own peace law election winners. Besides ultimately war-diseased USA, Russia, China, North Korea, India, Pakistan, Israel, and Iran will be the toughest nuts to crack. We'll realize that corruption, water replacement, CO2 removal, and war weapon sales crises will all have to be solved by our single overarching world treaty, finally forced on powerful, stupid holdouts by most all nations, full economic and trade embargoes until desperate domestic victims revolt against their selfish, idiot leaders. We'll also offer massive carrots, not just economic war sticks. Most of the world and their own people will encourage stonewalling dictators to keep, not lose their jobs by accepting rescue food, water, trade resumption, and environmental, economic, and agricultural aid, but only in return for joining your treaty to love and help humanity back. Tell them, doesn't hating and killing us only hate and kill your silly selves? We must work with those power freaks. Get human to keep your jobs, punks. Worst emergencies first remains our theme. We'll eventually demand thousands of CO2 air scrubbing factories that could restore CO2 below 300 parts per million to get us normal rainfall in a century. But majority drought area lakes and rivers could vanish in 10 years, and forests will soon die to explode CO2 to full human doom in 15 years. We must world agitate, negotiate, and legislate fully, then, to capture and pipe hot ocean steam and river floodwater inland to every dying forest, farm, and habitation as soon as mass action possible. Impossible without also denying every single politician's dirty private bribe money, buying extinctions, every deadly action and inaction. Suddenly, all candidates and incumbents allowed only equal time, public campaign, publicity, and debate can only win votes enough with their most attractive plans to stop war, ban weapons, and find and deliver water that rain no longer can, with the election winners' best programs to save our forests, farms, and lives. My opponent, many will announce, supports big bribery renewal and the worst big weapons kept to inevitably explode giant wars, all ruining any possible human rescue of your lives and future. In our last debate, I asked him how his refusal to legislate the trillions, along with most every other nation, needed to scrub out fatal atmosphere CO2, fill lakes, dismantle WMDs, retire invasion armies, and water dying forests. How all this tragic neglect could possibly grant any voter's little children 80 more years. Because most of us now agree that his corrupt, commercial, big war dog agenda will surely kill your family before every little one grows big enough to choose a college. Your movement must activate 12% of humanity, 1 billion people, to teach and inspire billions more, to break the feasting, predatory, utterly selfish jackal's 10,000-year death grip in fewer years than you have fingers. That's all the time we got, family and human family lovers. One Stevie's vision. Big damn deal. Your thousands of human rescue movements, big and small, always historically started, fought and won by countless family and public loving yous. Our story, often just never fully changing his story, has kept achieving for every life saved and treasured the loving rescues that God put us here to perform 1,000 times better than he ever could without the mortal fear, loud voices, and strong hands he gave to us. So what's so entirely different about the exponentially more menacing last nuclear 80 years to follow the 10,000 years of endless warring after our 2 million year loving, no murder matriarchy? Now only your coordinated billion can save the other 7 billion, also an eye blink from self and leader inflicted extinction. How do we win, not lose, all humanity? You start and never stop. Recruit 2 more helpers in a month. Then 2 more in case half give up and quit. Ask your smartphone what 2 to the 30th power is. Well over our needed billion in 2.5 little years. Just as 1 billion children are being driven to dangerous mental illness by sickening social media, so we will inspire 1 billion to fight for everyone's lives on the internet. Then we'll all explode. Love bomb lawful, new, all people's right to life governments. The hell with that excuse for nuclear holocaust that I promised to scratch on a rock to be found by those nuclear winter surviving undersea bacteria's 2 billion years hence descendants to guide their next attempt at more civilized technology and politics. You're having none of that defeatist crap. You and your little children are not going anywhere, just helping and growing everywhere for your lawful, loving humanity revolution. Tonight you'll tuck 'em in with a true bedtime story. We all remembered to make our family love every government's law. And they all lived happily ever after.